Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Inspired Life Vancouver. I'm your host, Zara Durrani. Each week, our aim is to bring inspiring locals who are making a positive impact in the communities. And hopefully, you will be inspired to follow and live the life of your dreams. Joining me today is an amazing media personality. You may recognize her voice from the morning show, C Fox. Karen has a very distinct voice. She is also an actress. She's lived in Vancouver, worked in Los Angeles. You were on CBC, CTV. She's been in the media industry for over 2 decades. I'm talking about Karen Khunkhun. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Happy to be here. It's an honor to be here and just share the journey with you. It's always an honor to talk to you.
It honestly is such a pleasure having you here. When I was reading your bio, and I was like, you interviewed Jim Carrey?
Yes, and he was so nice. I find that the bigger the star, the more down to earth they are when you actually, meet them and talk to them in real life. And I think they just love having those real conversations. And that was an honor because sometimes when you meet someone big and they're not who you think that they're going to be, you're like, oh, darn it, I wish I just never met them. But he was a gem. He was really awesome.
Did you interview him here or in LA?
That was in Los Angeles. Yeah, that was in California. And it was one of those awkward junket things, which as a reporter, you know that the big star hates the interview as the process because it's just, one thing after another, same questions. So I think right away when I said, oh, I'm from Canada as well, he was like, okay, my girl, let's talk, which was really, really nice.
I love that. That's so exciting. You've interviewed some big names in the music industry as well as in Hollywood. And you played a reporter in so many TV shows like Altered Carbon, Motherland, like the list just goes on. I could talk so much about your career, but with everyone on the show, I love to hit the rewind button and ask them how they first got started, because I'm sure there's someone watching right now who wants to say, I want to be just like Karen. And how did Karen first got started?
I will be really honest. I was always very scared about sharing with anybody what my dreams were when I was younger. I loved the radio. I was obsessed with it. Like I used to tape morning shows and listen back to the way they would announce things and talk about things. And I just thought there was so much mystery involved in it where they were creating such a vibe and just such a fun environment but you couldn't see them. So it just felt like this party that you wanted to be a part of, but like you would listen to, but you weren't really fully a part of. And I used to always tape the radio, and I have 2 older sisters, and they obviously knew my obsession with radio. And my one sister prompted me. There was an opening on a morning show, a local morning show, and they were looking for a morning co-host. And so they kind of ran a little contest, and she said, you have to do this. You have to apply for this. And I thought, there's no way. They're never going to choose me. I have no experience. And you didn't need experience. They just wanted someone that would be, up for getting up super early in the morning, first of all.
Because you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, right?
Yeah, my alarm goes off at around 3-ish, and it never gets easier. I mean, when you say 2 decades, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for so long. And with TV and radio, with TV, what's worse is when you're doing morning TV, you have to look good when you do it. Well, not good, but you have to be like presentable. Radio, no one sees you. So there's a bonus there. But with my first opportunity of getting into radio, it was basically a dare by my sister. And I was so scared to do it. And I actually did end up getting the job. And after that, I thought to myself, why was I so scared to admit what I wanted to do? I should have been, just held that conviction and been really strong, but I wasn't. I just thought that people would make fun of me or say that, oh, that'll never happen. There's no women, no brown women in radio. And so why do you think that you can do this? And there were a few, but just not very many that I saw.
But certainly you're one of the pioneers, and also not just being like, okay, just a South Asian radio station. You're C Fox and the Larry and Willie show, and you're doing all of this. And then also being on camera. Because not only is your voice stunning, you're beautiful. Like I've seen all these, of course, this is like now, all the photo shoots that I've seen and one that I got to style and
that
produce.
We did together.
You were on the cover of this magazine. But you bring up such an important point that, not many South Asian women were in radio.
It maybe kind of mind blowing because when I look back at it, I think I didn't let that get in my head
Mm.
as I was doing it. I remember when I first got the job with Larry and Willie, and I grew up in Vancouver, and to me, they were icons. I grew up listening to them every single morning. And when I actually got that job, it was one of those moments of, is this really happening? Like, I actually couldn't believe it. And then it didn't come until many years later that I thought, wow, like I'm glad that that wasn't in my head, that this could have been something that I couldn't do because of
Mhm.
my color or that I was a female. I never really looked at it in those terms. I just kept going for it. And then
And
things,
pushing ahead and having
yeah,
a vision that I can do this. And one thing I love talking to people a lot about is that have the fear, but then do it anyways. I
yes.
feel like a lot of times people ask me, they're like, you seem like such a confident person, like you would never get nervous. I'm like, I'm nervous all the time.
Oh,
But are you
yes.
like that? Like,
Oh, I
were
get
you
so
like,
nervous.
do I belong here? But I'm just gonna go ahead anyways until they say like stay or leave.
Well, I do that every time now when the first day of my morning show with Larry and Willie, I remember driving to the studio on Richard Street, the old Seafox iconic building. And I was driving there and I thought, no, 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 they've made the wrong choice. Like, I can't believe they chose me to get this job. They're going to find out that I suck. Like, just all these things going through my mind. I wanted to drive home. I was just like, why am I doing this? But I walked through that door, just pretended that I do that even when I get, on set every time when
Mm.
it's a new set, I get those same feelings of,
Mm.
do I belong? And it's just this, but then once you finish the job and you finish the day and everything's wrapped, you're like on top of the world
Yeah.
when it's a good experience. And usually it has been, but you just feel like, oh, I love this. Like, this is what feeds my soul.
Mhm.
But I get, especially when we're doing any live shows where you have to get up on stage.
Yeah.
And even if it's introducing a band or anything like that, oh, the nerves kill me. Like, I just feel like I can't do it. And then once you get out there, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I love this.
Yeah, or I am a natural at this because you hear your voice. Because I even hear your voice now. As soon as you walked in, I was like, damn, you can tell you're a pro. You know, your
Aw.
voice, honestly, Karen, I don't know if you hear it, but I hear it. I'm like, it's very, you have the announce, you have the voice that belongs on a stage, radio, television, all of that. So
Oh,
I hear
thank
that.
you.
But thank you for also sharing the fact that even after all this time of you doing this work, that you can still have that, because I do think that there's some people, they're like, no, I'm just like confident all the time, because I'm not that person.
Well, and I feel like you are, because I see you grab a mic and I'm like, oh, Zara, this is just, this is no big deal to her. I
Love
really
you.
feel like we need to share these stories, because I remember hearing Barbara Streisand before she goes on a stage, she has a bucket just in case. And we all know what that's for. And that floored me, because I'm like, Barbara frickin' Streisand gets nerves? Like, what? I can't even imagine it. And her sharing that really helped me, because I thought, okay, not everybody, but a lot of people feel this way. I'm not alone in this. It's normal. And I keep listening to different, techniques of how to channel. Nerves aren't a bad thing. It's excitement. It's not nerves.
Completely.
It's just, you're excited. You're
Yeah.
doing something that you love and you
And
want
you
to be good.
care.
You care. We care a lot. But I feel like you say, to me, why I wanted to get into this industry was the people, like sharing the stories, being around the energy, being a reflection of the community, and just being around people is what I think drives me and excites me. And that's what I love about this. I think that's where I really feel my groove.
And I think like you, it's like people like you who've also opened doors for so many others, for like people like myself. I really think that it's important. I love seeing the work that you're also doing in community, because it's not like, okay, you're doing this work on television as an actor when you still play a TV host, reporter, in our favorite shows that we binge watch, whether it's Netflix or Disney or whatnot, or movies. And you were on, I see the signs everywhere for So Help Me Todd. You were in So Help Me Todd. How was that?
That was really fun. Oh, it's so fun because, that is what I love about being in Vancouver. I remember when I was young, I was like, I want to move to LA. I want to now I'm so grateful being in Canada, so grateful. And just the fact that in Vancouver, you can kind of have a lot, like it all in a lot of different ways, with the fact that you can have your regular day job and then there's this booming industry that is just so vibrant with so much great talent that we can dip into and be a part of, which I'm forever grateful. I always pinch myself and I always say, if this all ends today, I will look back and go, that was awesome. I loved every minute of it.
That's so amazing. Now, you worked at CBC, like
Yes.
you've been a weather girl,
Yes.
like working from Vancouver, going to LA. Like walk us through some of that journey. What was it like for you being in LA? And from what I recall, you were quite young when you went to LA
Very
as
young.
well.
Yeah, that was like fresh out of university. So, and that was more for an internship with the music industry and at a record label. And that was kind of that's where I thought I wanted to land as far as a job went, communications. And so that's what I studied at SFU. And I really thought, okay, I want to be, in public relations, communications, something to do with music. And then the radio thing happened when I got back. That's when my sister nudged me to audition for this radio host position, co-host. And then I realized, okay, I like the media. I like the other side of things, and just fell in love with radio. And then from that is when I went over to CFox with Larry and Willie. And everything sort of snowballed. Like, it is such a small industry here, and it's so wonderful because you end up working with the same people on so many different things. And from that, I got the job with Breakfast Television, with the morning show there, and the whole TV thing and weather thing started. And that was another super fun experience. And then I just kind of found my way back to CFox doing morning. So,
Which is so interesting, going from radio and then to television.
yes.
And I love talking to actresses, models, or also female entrepreneurs talking about beauty.
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously you're
Yeah.
very beautiful. You're on the cover of many magazines. I see through your social media, like your family photos, but also I love seeing when you're doing all the charity work that you do. You're involved in a lot of different projects. And I see you looking stunning. But I want to talk about what does beauty mean to you, like now, from
Yeah.
you 20 to now, because I'm sure that has changed the meaning of what it means, because our industry is very focused on that.
Yeah.
I understand that you're, in radio, but still
Yes.
you do a lot of work out there.
Well, what's really funny is when I first started with Breakfast Television, there wasn't social media
Yeah.
like there is now. Thank God. Thank God, because I think it would have killed my soul, to be honest with you. I don't think that I would have been able to handle it, because now it's like you get on screen and all of a sudden Twitter's like hashtag whatever, and people can just tear you apart in a second. And I didn't have that getting into it. So it was like, we'd go on TV, we'd do the morning show, we'd do whatever. And then I wouldn't really know what people were instantly thinking, because if someone had a problem, they would write the station going, I hated her blouse. And it would be like snail mail, and you get it 2 weeks later and you'd be like, whatever, that was over. I'm not. But then it started where, that you'd get people commenting online. And I think I'm glad I was a little bit older when that started. It still hurts. Don't get me wrong. When people are nasty online, it still really hurts. But I think that was my litmus of beauty. That's when I started to really go, oh, like if someone would make a comment about, oh, your hair's out of place, or this is out of place, or oh, this, or I hated your outfit, or body comments about fat or skinny or whatever. I'm glad that wasn't there at the very start of my career. And it kills me that women, that's all they're judged on. Like, you'll see a male and female co-host on a evening news program, and the man they never comment on, and the woman, it's like torn apart from head to toe. And you're going, it's 2023. We're still here. Like, this is what we're still doing. And it's something that I just hope goes away. And I don't know if it ever will. But I was so naive when I got into it. I was just like, oh, it's my first job and I'm just doing this. And I was excited, and I didn't have the hate coming in. But I feel like if it was 5 to 10 years later, it would have been a lot different. But that's what starts to get me second guessing things is comments online. And I think, thankfully, my mom and my family, they didn't place this big thing on like beauty. It was all about how hard are you working? How kind are you? And that was really it. There was never anything about who looks the best. I mean, I'm just obsessed with glam. I love glam. I would buy like the Vogue September, like, well, every Vogue, every fashion magazine. And I'd pour through them because I love fashion. I love beauty. I love all of that stuff. But it was never in a judgy way. But now I
Mm.
just see everything's kind of turned and people they just get so nasty online that I think a lot of people's self-confidence is so wrapped up in the outward. And I just,
Mm.
I mean, for me, I think if you're a beautiful person, it comes out from the inside, and then that's sort of what should shine.
And I feel like also in the industry as a female, but I'm sure as a male as well, because one of my friends who's an actor and he's in his early 30s, and he mentioned having to do this audition, and in it he had to take off his shirt,
Yeah.
and he's like, I'm not as sculpted because he had an accident
Yeah.
and got concussion and stuff. And I'd never heard like so much in detail from a
Yeah.
male act, sharing his insecurity about his body, of him not having, because he's like, Zara, these are the roles I go for.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm struggling with right now in his early 30s. I'm like, you look so fit. What are you talking about? But I think sometimes people tell you to have a thick skin, but I'm like, I'm so sensitive. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard to be like, sometimes people will be like, oh, did you like gain weight, or why are your cheeks so round? Did you get something? I'm like, no, this is my cheeks.
Oh yeah.
I just
You're
maybe haven't been working out this summer.
Yeah, and to anyone asking those
Yeah.
questions, don't. Like it's just, we don't want to, like, nobody wants to hear that. Or like I love the, oh my gosh, like the tired. And I'm like, yes, I'm tired. I get up every morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, but it's like I think people just feel a free reign to say whatever to you.
Because you're in the
if you're
public eye.
Yeah, and I remember being on TV and if people would be like, "Oh, like you're way shorter in real life or way smaller, taller, bigger." And you'd be like, probably wouldn't say that to somebody, but people do. And they do ask everything. And you're just like, okay, whatever. I worry now with my daughter who's
Mm.
12. And, the thing about weight, especially, and all of those issues, it starts so young. And you see girls worrying about things. And I think social media is just making it so terrible. TikTok, Instagram, because it's so unrealistic.
And then all the apps that can alter your body.
Yes.
And I'm glad that there's some Instagram accounts and TikTok accounts that actually show that, okay, the cellulite or stretch
Yes.
marks, or like, this is what the photo looked like
Yeah.
before.
Yes.
And this is what,
Yeah,
all-
or like Instagram versus reality, or like whichever one, those type of things where people are being more real about it. But it still gets you, like you said. I mean, I mean, we're real people. If someone calls in the radio station and they're like yelling at us about something that we said, or they're, it does hurt if
Mm.
someone, and it gets to you. And it's like for every person that has a nice comment, it's always the bad one that sticks with you for the day, where you're like driving around going, okay, I am way too old to care about like what some troll online said, but it does get to you because we do care.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why we're
and you're putting so much heart in.
Yes, yeah, your heart and soul is in it, and it's like you're so exposed. And so, but I mean, I think what you just have to, when you go to bed at night, you just have to realize that you're not going to please everybody. And a lot of people, the issue has nothing to do with you. It's their own issue. And hey, if that's how they want to vent, I know the guys that I work with, they always say, if yelling at us on the radio makes you feel better about, not yelling at
But do you guys
someone
actually get those calls?
we have, it got really nasty, Zara, during COVID.
Mm.
It got really nasty. And
Because people didn't have time for anything else. So it was like, okay, where
Well-
is this energy going to go?
And people were so divided. I've never seen it so divided. And there was just, people weren't working as much, and jobs had ended, industries had ended. There wasn't the entertainment and the fun stuff. Concerts were canceled, and people were just angry and wanted an outlet. And it did get really bleak for a while. And just seeing news story after news story that was just so negative. I mean, having the numbers every day, and just like the COVID numbers, and just not seeing an end to it, and no travel and no inspiration. And we were just going, oh my gosh, when's this going to end? But as things started to lift, we've seen a real shift, which is, we're so grateful for, because it got dark there for a bit.
And then you're also being part of the entertainment industry, helping bring that entertainment to people, whether it's through the morning show or through being on television in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And tell me about, like, you're really passionate about being involved in the community. you're involved in so many amazing projects, from like Pink Shirt Day to like the Burn Fund.
Yes.
You really devote your time to all these projects. Like, how important was it for you to get involved?
Very, with the Burn Fund, first of all, with Hometown Heroes. That one for me, it's been such an honor to be a spokesperson for them. And with my co-host there, Sebastian Savallo, and he's a real firefighter. A lot of people ask, is he an actor? But he does act, and he hosted a show, and he is a Vancouver firefighter. And just the stories that he has, I mean, well, literally saving lives, and so much work that they do for raising money when your healthcare runs out for different things for them, and not just physical stuff, but mental health as well. And it's been really like such an eye-opening experience hearing stories of people who just everyday activities, making tea, and then your shirt catches on fire, and what do you do? And I've never even thought of these things, or kids, and how it's just so easy for kids to get burnt with everyday things that we do, with just like a hot pan on the stove, and them accidentally pulling it down, and all of a sudden they're at Children's Hospital and rushing for help. And there's a lot of different things that you don't really think of, and then when you meet the people that are receiving the care, you just think, wow, there's such a need for it. And I've been so blessed to be a part of the fundraising for that. So that's been a real honor for me.
That's amazing. And you're also involved with the anti-bullying committee, the Pink Shirt Day.
Yes. Yeah, Pink Shirt Day is really, really an awesome one for us, because it started with CKNW. I mean, it didn't start with CKNW, but one of the big things out west, because it started on the East Coast, but one of the things out west is that we always do a Pink Shirt Day luncheon with CKNW and raise money and funds. And we're lucky enough to meet Amanda Todd's mom, Carol Todd. And that was just, wow. The fact that she's been able to take that pain and turn it into, she's just such an advocate for anti-bullying, and she's just done so much. That's inspiring to see, because I don't know if I could do that.
I have a friend, I'm not going to say her name. She is in the industry, but has removed herself from here, relocated. Her daughter went through so much because of bullying, and I can't believe the extent of it.
Yeah.
Young girls.
Young, yeah.
And you're wondering, what are the parents doing? Like, what is happening that there's so much anger and meanness and unkindness, and which it's like, because back in the day it was like, okay, this is just happening at school, but now because of social media,
it follows them home. It absolutely does. And I think the problem is it's just a complete disconnect, because I feel as though kids will, they send something out and they don't really think it's just like when somebody says a rude comment, they're like, I don't care, that person's untouchable, and there's no repercussion, or there's no problem with just sending out this nasty message.
Because they're not seeing how they're impacting the person right here.
Yes. And I think for kids, when they have, and it is just, I think as parents, we have to be, and you can be really on top of it, and your kids could still do this, and you could have no idea, and it could be the kindest parents, and it still happens. But I think that we really have to keep those conversations going. And I think that if another set of parents reaches out to you to say, I think this is happening, you have to be open. Because I find a lot of times some people go into defense mode, and they're like, oh, my kid would never do that, and how dare you? And it's like, no, it's not how dare you. We're a community, and we have to figure this out together. And even if you don't think that your child did it, let's all work it out together, and try to come at it as a little tribe, and work this out and be there for the other children, because it's just getting worse and worse. And sadly, I don't know what the answer is, but I think a lot of times people just don't want to take the time to have the conversation. They just want to say, no, that's not my child. My kid's not doing this.
Well, inspired by that, my friend is now launching this now more positive social media app, but just talked about how social media also affects kids, and it also affects us, and sometimes I have to delete or block people or comments and whatnot. I want to talk about Bradley Cooper. How did you go on to play a poker game with Bradley Cooper?
Okay, this is when things were so fun in the junket world, where they would actually like create events for all of the reporters that would go down. So I went down to Las Vegas, and it was for the junket for The Hangover. And so now we know The Hangover is like this amazing, hilarious movie that just, kind of took over the world and is one of those top 5 funny movies that, you have to see. But it's Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms, and Zach Galifianakis.
Oh my goodness.
So at
they
that
are
time,
all such
all
characters.
3, right? And at that time, I didn't even know who Zach Galifianakis was.
Yeah.
And so we're watching the movie. We watched the movie prior to playing the game with all 3 of them were there, and they all showed up, and they were all just having the time of their lives. Because I think for them, they were like, didn't even know how this movie would land. They were just like, what is this movie?
Or how this would have go on to affect people, because this is before Bradley Cooper became Bradley Cooper.
Way before.
Yeah.
Yes. And even like Ed Helms, I think it was around The Office time, but Zach Galifianakis, I remember being so nervous having to say his name, because it was like, I'm like, don't screw this up. Like when we're doing the intro, I'm like, Zach Galifianakis. And now it's like just rolls off your tongue because we've heard it a billion times. But the movie, it's when you do a junket, and because you watch the movie, and usually it's an okay movie, but this one, I was dying. I'm like, no, this movie is going to be something. Like everybody is going to love this movie. And so tied into that, we were in a Vegas casino. They had the whole thing blocked off, and it was all of the different people from all over, Canada, US, all over, playing and hanging out with the guys. And they were so down to earth, just having fun, like being there. We're enjoying the ride 100%. So that was our little poker extravaganza with the stars of that show. But they just felt like dudes that you would be friends with.
Oh, that is certainly.
Really
I hope
fun.
you have photos, or I'm sure you have footage from that.
Yeah, well, now it's like nothing was posted. Like I don't even think I had
This
Instagram
is before
then.
that
I don't
time.
even think I had Instagram then. And so now I'm like, oh man, that was pretty awesome. But you know what? I think it was almost some of those things were so much better than because we didn't have it.
Because
now,
you're so in the moment, because now we have to post everything.
Well, and I think their guards are down. Their guards were down because it wasn't like people, doing little sneaky videos or photos of them, having drinks or doing whatever, because, just to post it and for whatever reason. I mean,
they can say whatever because they're like, the cameras aren't rolling. You can just be yourself.
They were and that's what it was.
Yeah.
Whereas I think now everyone has to be a little more guarded, because who knows what you're going to wake up and someone says they were doing this, that, or the other. And they were very well behaved, I will say. But yeah, I think that is the thing. Like social media is so great because we stay connected and we learn so much about people that we maybe would have never have been exposed to. But then on the flip side, there's a lot of things where just like the privacy, the nasty comments, the bullying, there's, the yin and yang. You're just, we can't live with it, but then I guess we can't live without it in some ways.
And it's funny, that's what I'm using to like book all the guests, like contacting you and being like, oh my God, is this still your phone number? And finding different people's, but I've found like messaging people through Instagram or like who goes on people's websites? Like who has a website anymore?
I think I do. It's dormant somewhere, but it's like even email. Like no one emails me. It's just more. Yes, it's like okay, you get all your messages via social media
completely,
now.
100%. Now you've interviewed so many people. In front of the camera when you're acting, like as an actor, you're playing journalists in so many movies. Have you had moments that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm on set with this person? Am I in a dream? Someone pinch me? Is this real?
And I'm not just saying it, Zara. Every time I get into makeup, when I'm on set, I always just really have that moment of like deep gratitude. And it doesn't matter what it is, but I just feel like, wow, like this is happening. This is still happening. Okay. This is really like, I never for a moment take it for granted or go, oh gosh, this again. Even with, the morning show, I've been there for so long now. And every morning, I feel like it's an honor to be waking up Vancouver and still being able to do what I love doing. I really, really love it and really appreciate that I get to still do it. Yeah.
And the fact that you're also sharing your opinions and your voice and you're getting paid to talk.
But with the sharing your opinions, I do worry sometimes because it's this whole culture of like, if you do say the wrong thing or, if something goes the wrong way and someone gets really upset about it, you could be canceled just like that. So there is that little worry, but
Mindful.
yeah,
Yeah.
mindful. But I always think like if you're speaking from your heart and you're trying to come from a good place and trying not to hurt anyone with your words. And sometimes, you might say the wrong thing and someone's like, actually it's this. And so we'll read those comments and we'll always, that's the one thing I do really love about our show is we get texts that are just like real-time texts that come into the studio and we read them and we like give people credit for what they're texting in. And even if they're like, you're an idiot and that's wrong and it's not this, we're like, yeah, they're absolutely right. And we do give.
You're kidding.
Oh, 100%.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And that is one thing I like about radio versus TV, because with TV, you sort of see it after, or I guess when you go to commercial break, but radio, it's real time. Like you're talking about something and or even if you're like, what was that actor's name? And you're like, oh yes, right. And
Thanks for sending that.
someone will text you right away with the answer. So it's like our listeners are our co-host, which is so, so great.
That is so cool. And you have this, do you have people like stopping you in grocery stores or like when you're driving somewhere, someone waving at you? Does that happen?
It does. Like yeah, it's like so embarrassing to say, but it is kind of funny. My daughter, I remember when she was like really young and we were at the grocery store and I was chatting with someone behind me and then very loudly, because she was young, she's like, do you know them? Who are they? She was like, serious, like wondering. And I'm like, no, honey, I don't. Like, I do, but I really don't. But she was wondering about the whole thing. And I was like, for me, it's just so normal. Like, I love it. I love talking to people. And it's like my husband, he's gotten so used to it. Like he'll end up chatting with everybody as well. And it just becomes like a big, like fun thing. Cause I just think if you're part of the show and if you're listening, it's not you're listening to me, like you are part of what we're doing, which is what I really like about what we've built there.
And I'm sure people also feel like, okay, you being a public figure, they're a part of your life too. Because even if you are coming into their homes, you know, when on their commute to work or whatnot, and you know, whether someone is doing a show like Friends, so everyone thinks that they have something to say about Jennifer Aniston, or like your show, because it's the regularity. You get used to like your voice, like, you know.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like when I grew up listening to, and still not even grew up listening to, when I still listen to every other station and people and like different, I feel like I know them. So that when I see them, I'm like, oh yeah, like, oh wait, I don't really officially know you. I feel like that happens on social media so much, where you follow someone and you'll become like friends on Instagram. I have so many girls like this. And then finally you'll meet in real life and you'll be like, oh yeah, we already like know each other. You know their dog's name and they're like, you have 3 kids or whatever it might be. And you're like, but I don't actually know you, but we kind of know each other.
Yeah, but it's the same as I'm like, you were boating and you were doing this. How was your weekend?
How was your trip?
Because I feel like I was there. And I think that is the positive of it.
I think so too.
Because even if I haven't seen you in several years, like in real life, I do feel I've stayed up to date through the photos and seeing you like being happy. And I love seeing like photos of you, like whether it's photo shoot in a magazine or for the Burn Fund, or you know, when you were on the cover of Drishti magazine, like back in the day. I love like when you're dressed up and happy and shiny. Who do you look at, like whether it is like, you know, like an actress or someone from before that you're like, I want a career like theirs?
Oh, that is a real tough one. I mean, forever it was Oprah. Like I just remember coming home from school, and I think her show was on at 4, and I get home at like 3, and that was must see. And I would just get so wrapped up in the way that she would interview someone, because it was just her calm voice and her manner of just making everybody divulge everything, and just the way that she did it was just so seamless. And I think we're missing that right now, like that voice of reason on TV, where it's not trash TV and it's not you're just delving into someone's life just to get the worst of the worst out of it. And she really inspired me. Someone that wasn't this cookie cutter look of this, you know, who should be on, you know, this host. And she carved that for her. And I think for a young brown girl watching that, I was like, whoa, like, it blew my mind. I think that was a huge founding, like a fundamental person. Seeing her growing up really made me just think this is something I want to do. Yeah.
Very well said, because it was the same for me, and it wasn't like she looked like a particular way or size or whatever, but it was about the conversations and her intellect and the energy that she brought into the room.
And her realness.
Yeah.
Because I think before that and after that, it's like everyone's like being a host, but she was just fully real, like who she was on TV. Maybe it wasn't who she was off TV because I've never met her, but she just felt so real watching her. And I really loved the way she interviewed. So she was a big one. But I remember the first time I saw someone on TV that was brown, and it was Monica Diol on Much Music.
Yes.
And I remember Electric Circus, and I see Monica Diol. Wait, that's a brown last name.
Yeah.
I was thinking, this is so cool. And
she dressed so cool.
Yes,
Yes.
like a rocker chick. And I was like, this is awesome. And that was the first time I saw someone kind of in that role. And that was a big moment as well. There was like so many people that you see, and Shushma, who was, doing so many different interviews, and who my parents would watch. And so her voice would be on in the house as well. And just a lot of inspiring people as I was coming up, for sure.
And it's so great to see, like you're saying, it's interesting, Monica Diol. I remember the first ever South Asian Film Festival in Vancouver. I was asked to do all the red carpet interviews, and I'd like not done that before. And I'm like, okay, sure, I can talk to people. I'm good at talking to people, whatever. I remember watching the panel discussion and her saying, and Zaf Peru, I just remembered his name.
Oh, yeah.
And them talking about go create your own content.
Right.
Because Zaf was saying that how he wants to be a superhero. And then Monica was like, you will have to write and produce and do all of this. And I remember sitting back and being like, I don't know how to do that, but I want to do it. But it planted the seed.
Yes.
Listening to her on that panel planted the seed. And I do have to give kudos to her. And someone was saying to me that they're going to connect me to her, Jill Killeen. She was like, Zara, you need to have her on the show, because she did plant the seed for me. And
for so many of us.
Yeah. She was certainly like a pioneer, and also fabulous.
Yes.
Super fabulous.
So cool. That was the thing too. It was like, she's having fun with it. Like, this is just, I loved seeing that. And I think that the other, how we're talking about the goods and bads of social media, one of the great things is that is an avenue to create your own whatever it is. If it's your own media channel, media company, whatever it is, that you can kind of create something on your own and have an audience and kind of attract people to you, and then maybe it spawns into something else.
Completely. And then even I feel most of the guests we've had on the show, I just message them through Instagram because they see what we're doing, or they'll see who we've had on the show.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is great. Your studio looks great.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is
it does.
fantastic. How do you feel it has been for you, the evolution of your career, over the years, and then to feel like, I'm sure you do, and you certainly are, relevant,
right?
And in the game. And I know you're in radio, but you also work as an actress, and you do a lot of emceeing work, and you're involved in all these charities and all this charitable work you're doing. But does that pressure ever come? Do you ever feel that? Because I feel that. Like, I'll be 41 in like a month.
Yeah.
I think of that.
The
age thing, the beauty thing, because I know I understand that it's my work ethic, and it's my creative ideas, yet at the same time, I'm aware of that.
And I think that sadly we all are, and we all have to be. I think that it's really great to see women like J-Lo that are 51, and like, Selma Hayek, and just like all of these women that, they're defying this age thing, and they're just breaking through and going, I'm not stopping, and I'm still going to dress this way and do this thing and sing like this, and I don't care. And it's like, I'm on that I don't care path I'm just going to keep doing, I do feel like, going back to the being relevant, I think when Instagram kind of first popped off for me, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind of like where I should be. And there was like this thought that I had. And then I kind of let that go. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I enjoy what I'm doing. And I think after I had my daughter, I sort of slowed down on some level and just was at peace with where I was. And I just kind of feel like I go with my gut on things. And I'm not so worried about like where should I be at this moment, but does this moment feel right for me? And it feels right. And sometimes I think, there was a while there where it was just like the hustle culture. Like, I was doing morning show, TV, and then afternoon show radio, emceeing stuff, doing side gigs, zero sleep, working 24/7. And it was just like, what is this doing for me? Like this is just too much. And so, one had to go. And so when I just kind of started focusing on one, I was way happier. And I thought, this feels right. So I think now I just go with my gut and what feels right and what feels okay. And if that means saying no to certain things, that's just what I'm going to do, because I can't say yes to everything and be happy. And so if it means that I have to say no to certain things and miss that opportunity, and maybe someone else will get a gig instead of me, that's fine. Then it wasn't meant to be. So I think I'm there yet, there now, where maybe I wasn't 10 years ago.
I think contentment, and it sounds like also like that inner confidence of
Yeah.
like trusting that the right opportunities
Yes.
and whatnot is going to come instead of chase. I remember even for me, it's like I did a TED talk behind the scenes,
Yeah.
like, when they were at the first time at Rogers Arena, and that was their first time in Vancouver. And then I was going to Surrey after doing all the behind the scenes all day from like 9 till like 4 or
Yeah.
something like that, or 8 to 4. Then I'm rushing to Surrey to do another red carpet. I came home at like midnight and I was like, oh my goodness.
Shaking from like being
Yes.
tired and just spent, right?
Completely.
Yeah.
And a part of me is
Yeah.
like, I love this. And you want to be like, okay, look, I'm in demand, and
Yes.
people like the work that I do. Yet at the same time, when I'm around all these people, like hundreds of people,
Yeah.
and being super present, you're like, okay,
It takes a
it's
lot from
okay
you.
for me to sometimes say no. I don't have to
Yes.
be everywhere.
Yeah, that is such a big one, because you know what? I think it wasn't even about where I wanted to be. It was never wanting to say no. And I thought, if I say no, people are going to like hate me, which I'm such a people pleaser that I didn't want people to be mad at me for saying no, or that they would never call back again because I said no. And then I don't know what kicked in. I think it's just, I just decided that no, you can say no and you're not a bad person. Like it doesn't change anything. You can be too busy, and sometimes you just have to say no for your own mental health. And I think it's good that we are talking about mental health now, because it's not going to serve anybody. And I think, having Maya made me really go, I have to be present for her. And I don't want her to be a yes person and just say yes to everything and just suffer in silence. Like you have to take time for yourself as well. So I think that was a big wake up call for me, because I was the person that was like, yes, oh yeah, I'm working from 3 a.m. to, 12 midnight. And that's normal. No, that's not normal. Like you need a moment for yourself. You need to take a beat.
And thank you so much for sharing that, because I'm hearing a lot of conversations lately about the whole girl boss culture as
Yes.
well.
Hustle culture.
Yeah, the hustle girl boss culture, that it's okay to, like, now on weekends, I'm taking weekends.
Yeah.
I'll have like a lunch meeting and whatever, but I'm like, it's okay, let's go for a dog walk. Like,
Yeah.
let's just relax, or let's have a 3-hour lunch.
Yeah.
It's okay to relax. I have not always been like that.
No.
I think perhaps a scarcity mindset or whatnot,
Yes,
or maybe
for sure.
also, there's also, I was saying to Tiara earlier, my co-producer, that sometimes also, like, I wasn't born in Canada. So a part of that is like, if the opportunity is here, I need to take this
Yes.
now. And I've had the same issues as the no, that if I say no or ask for more money or whatever,
Yes.
what are they going to say?
Yes. Or they'll find someone else.
Yeah.
And I think, that must be the backstory for me as well, as both of my parents are immigrants, came here from India. And I think growing up, it was just like instilled in us, you have to work hard, and it is about your work ethic. And that is it. Like, it doesn't matter. That's pretty much like, that's who you are, is how hard you work.
Mhm.
And I think that being instilled in all of us, and all of us kids, there's 4 of us, from a young age, was such a great thing. But it did kind of get me to that point where it was like, don't say no, work hard, don't complain. Whereas now it's so different. Like,
Mhm.
I just feel like, when you're working with the younger generation now, and there's like that total, I'm going to take a moment for myself, or no, I can't come in today. It's like, you go. Like,
Yeah.
take that moment for yourself, because honestly, some of it is just not worth it. Like, you should set your boundaries. and tell people what is okay for you. And I wish that I did a little bit more of that.
I
Like
completely,
work hard as well, and
yeah.
never say you're going to do something and don't do it. Like always, back your word. But if you can't do it, and if it's too much, say that it's too much. Don't just show up and then be bitter that you're there.
Completely, 100%. What would you say inspires you in life?
I think other people, just
Mm,
generally energy from other people. I just love being around like um fun, vibrant communities and like fun people and good laughs and just having like a really good, happy life. I think we're so lucky to live here. And my goal in life is just be happy. So I think that's the main one. Obviously, like seeing my daughter now coming up and having her laugh her head off, even though mostly now it's at me, not with me. That's fine. If I can provide like the humor, I'm good with it. But and whenever I hear, Mom, that is so cringe, I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's
this is
fine.
a new word these days.
I
That
know.
is so cringe.
Cringe. I'm like, yeah, cringe, Liddy. I'm like, I am so out of it. I'm just like, I don't know any of this. And if I use these words, she's going to be like, you did not say those on camera. I did. So that'll be cringe to her and not Liddy at all. But it's seeing that. And I think she keeps me young, but my job keeps me young. I think like my friends, the people around me, my sisters, my brother, my family. I just, yeah, that it's the passion for the people around me.
I love that. What are your hopes? I know we were speaking a little about the acting stuff
Yeah.
earlier, but over over the next 5 years, like if anything could happen in your career or anything, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, writing a book or
Yeah.
a travel somewhere, like what are your hopes for the next few years that you could share with us?
Yeah, you know what? Health and happiness, number one for sure. But yeah, I think breaking out of my reporter role in film, I would love that.
Like what would be your ideal dream role that you're like, I want to do something like that?
I want to be a nasty. I want to be like a busting character. Something
And it's
like
funny because
really,
you're so happy and positive and smiley.
I want to be the opposite. I
Yeah.
want to be like, yeah, that just like dark character. I don't know. I should maybe not smile during the audition and I could maybe try to book something like that. But, like breaking outside of what I'm comfortable with. Because I think right now everything is quite comfortable with the hosting stuff. So maybe something that would like really challenge me into like a different zone. I think I'm ready to go into.
And I think someone was mentioning earlier on the show today is that it's always that uncomfortable zone where
Yeah.
you're always feeling a little bit like, I don't know if I can do this,
Yeah.
where the growth comes. And I can hopefully someone watching, you like watching JLo in Mother.
Oh,
I was like, man,
yeah.
and it was filmed here, and she is so good, and her skin,
Just
she just
everything.
looks stunning.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's that thing of pushing past those boundaries of her even saying in interviews that, she was told that she can't sing, that she just can dance. But she's like, no, I'm still going to do this. I don't care what anyone else says. And no matter what, like, I think as much as we tell ourselves that we don't care, I think that little no voice peaks out way too much. And we have to silence it. Like you and when we have these conversations and we just talk about, why would anything hold us back? Like we've got to embrace it and harness whatever energy that we do have and just go for it. And I think as much as I say to my daughter, like, don't let anything hold you back and reach for the stars. And like, you just have to know that you can do anything. It's like, I got to keep telling myself that too. We have to keep reminding ourselves of this.
I love that. Lately, I've started putting like little sticky Post-it
Oh,
notes.
I
I don't know
love
if
that.
you saw that in my bathroom. And
I do it too. I have like a written agenda. I think I'm like one of the few people that's not like I have all my stuff on my phone, but I still have a paper agenda and I still have inspirational quotes that I have in there.
I love that. Like in the mornings, I have to do like my 5-minute journal, my gratitude journal. I do a quick visualization. If you could go back in time and talk to young Karen who was starting out, what would you say to her?
Stop caring what people think and stop being so hard on yourself and stop worrying about what's to come because it's going to be okay. I think I spent too much time worrying about what was going to happen, That never happened. You know, like just all the no's and the this and the that. And even if it was a no, it doesn't matter. It was meant to be. And I think just being more chill. I had zero chill growing up. Like I was just like constantly stressing out about the unknown and just always telling myself like that there was going to be a roadblock that wasn't there. I just wish that I just trusted the journey and the process more.
Breathing more. I wonder if that's a Leo thing.
Maybe. Oh,
We are like a day apart.
yeah. So I think that could. Are you like this?
I'm August
Were you
15th.
like this?
I'm
But were you
totally like this.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
you seem so chill.
Really?
Yes.
People do say to me, they're like, for a Leo, you're very calm. But I work on that, yet at the same time around work and things like that and trusting
Yeah.
the universe.
Yes.
There's certainly like, there's times where I'm forced to trust.
Yes.
Where I'm like, there's no option.
You're hanging on for dear
You're
life. You're
like,
like, oh dear.
better be something good coming along.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yes, that's the thing is in those little dips. And that's the other thing is it's totally normal to not feel okay. And I think, even in Vancouver winters, like you'll just hit some lulls that you're like, holy, is there ever going to be a break in this? And no matter what's going on in your life, like you're like, I have great friends. My work life is going wonderful, but there's just, you're just not feeling it. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
You have to just remind yourself that everybody feels like that and it's going to dip, but that dip, it's going to come back around. And I just think that you have to keep reminding yourself of that. And in the really good times, I think maybe saying that, hey, it's not always going to feel this great and it's going to dip down again. And that's okay. That's just a part of life. And I think we have to keep reminding ourselves of that.
I love that. Is there something that you're really proud of in your life, and whether it's in your personal life or your career, that you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, Karen, I'm proud of you for doing that?
That's my family. Like it's nothing that I like did, but I think I just like, I don't know what I would do without them. That's my moment where I'm like, I am so proud of like where I came from.
I love that. I also love seeing your family photos. Like when you guys are, I'm like, you look so happy.
Aw.
I think through social media, I know people can use it for negative or whatever feelings, but I was having this conversation earlier. I think universe shows us we can decide like when you see someone else being happy to be happy for them, or you have an option to be like envious of that.
Yeah.
And I feel like something inside of me, I'm so happy seeing other people's, whether it's personal life or success or work or whatever. And you can tell when it's a genuine thing.
Yes.
Or when it's like, okay, I'm just posting something to be like, look at me, I'm here.
Yeah.
Because someone could be in the south of France and not be happy, right? Like we don't know what's going on inside of them.
No, we don't know. And I do think too, like when I'm getting these feelings, it's like, and that's how I feel too. It's like when I see you shining, I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is where you're supposed to be. And it makes me so excited. Or when I, like my other friends and random people that I follow and just like see what they're doing in their different journeys. I think sometimes when you are feeling that little ping of like, oh, I don't like this. It's like, where am I? What am I doing? I need to get off this app and get my ass onto the seawall or into the forest and go connect with something that's not this phone. And that's a thing that like, I find that we're so uber connected all the time, and taking those weekends where you're like, I'm not doing any meetings. I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm not posting for a week. Like I go quiet for like long periods of time because it's just like, I don't want my daughter to just see me on my phone posting 24/7 and just always being on there. So I try to do it when either she's asleep or she's got other things, or when, when she was in school, or when she's in school, doing it when she's not around, because I don't want her to think that's the be all and end all of life. But when I'm getting like those feelings that aren't super happy online, it's like, oh, I have to get off this right now. Because I just feel like it just sometimes affects you in a negative way.
And there can be times where I'm like, okay, I'm scrolling.
Yes.
And for me, there have been times, and I've talked about this in the show, and something that's certainly switched for me over the years, because I would get feelings of, how come I didn't book that job?
Yeah.
Why didn't they ask me? Why wasn't I in the, one of the options for something like this?
Yeah.
Versus when someone's doing that, A, I'm applauding them, or B, now that I'm doing the show, I'm like, come here, I want to talk to you. Come on the show.
Yes.
And they're like, you even see what I'm doing? I'm like, I'm totally seeing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think having more of that sisterhood,
Yes.
camaraderie, and like
Yeah.
high five, like good for you for like booking this job. Versus I do think that, especially being like women of color, because for a long time, like I remember when I was modeling, there would be like one other person doing this.
Yes. Yeah.
Versus now, I'm like, it's so nice to see more people, whether it's in ad campaigns or even in television shows. What has your journey been like that with that?
Like with seeing other people that are,
Yeah.
pretty sparse, to be honest, because when I first got into things, it would always be sort of just me as like the one lone brown person that would
Yeah.
be where XYZ and or Z, I should say here.
Yeah.
But and that it kind of hasn't changed in a lot of ways, but now you're seeing way more diversity on TV, which is really amazing. Like it just feels like there wasn't a time before this. You're seeing hosts and people that have all different backgrounds, and it's definitely changed in our lifetime, which feels like we were just part of something bigger as it all started.
Completely.
Yes,
Yeah. And
yeah.
you were part of, certainly like a big part of that movement. Like I remember walking past CBC and I was like, oh, I forget, she's beautiful, the name of the host, but I was like, wow, this is great to see.
Anita Bath, one of the main,
Yes, that they're advertising her
Fabulous.
and she's
Yeah.
there. She looks amazing.
The main like 6
Yes,
o'clock
yeah.
anchor and seeing Sophie Louis on the 6 o'clock news, and just like there's so many different people that now we can go, okay, oh my gosh, you're doing it.
There's more women.
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like we have to keep those doors open, because there's still a lot of work to be done, and still a lot of I think in the writing rooms and in the different producing rooms and directing rooms, those spaces as well.
Yeah, the way they're writing those stories,
Yeah.
right? And not just from one dimension. And like Monica Deal said, you have to go out there and write your stories yourself and produce them and direct them. And yes, it's work, but earlier I had the cinematographer on, and he's mentioning like working on these big Netflix productions that are paying him really well as a filmmaker, but then producing these other films, as a Black Latin filmmaker.
Right.
And
Yeah.
how he's like, since the whole BLM movement and George Floyd, that he is using this as an opportunity of, okay, what can I do? How can I be a part of the change, instead of just posting like a square on social media?
Right. Yeah. And I think, with that, I think when you do have a voice and people are actually listening, it's such a huge platform for you to speak up on different issues and just be a voice for others as well. So that's amazing that he's doing that.
Yeah. Is there a particular spot in Vancouver that you like to go to get inspired? I like to ask this to everyone because the show is Inspired Life Vancouver.
Yes. Oh, I feel like every little point of our city is so beautiful and so inspiring. I love being downtown. I love being downtown for a show at night, any concert, any genre. That's when I feel like it really comes alive, and you're like, I just love it here. There's, from the big venues to just like little clubs, and seeing different artists perform, and seeing, kind of Vancouver let their hair down. We're beautiful in the day, but I just love that our nightlife's coming back again, and there's more people coming through, and we're getting lots of different musical acts. But that's when I really love the city.
There have been so many. It was Blink 182.
Yes.
And I know someone that they were like, oh, Travis Barker came into my business. And
yes, he was running the seawall just before the show. He ran the seawall before his show.
kidding.
No, absolutely. And then he went to the vegan joint on Main Street and had lunch there. And yeah, oh, that's the other thing. We have so many great restaurants, and just like with so many pluses to our city. Every little beach at every peak. And yeah, I feel pretty honored to live here. Like I said before, I was always like, I want to move down to California, and I want to, when I was younger, get out of here.
Same.
And now I'm like, no, I love it here.
It's so clean.
Yes.
So much more safer than Los Angeles. I was completely the same. And
Yeah.
I'm in love with Vancouver.
Yeah, and we're so lucky that there is such a vibrant art scene and music scene and film scene here, that we can continue to be inspired and have just different sort of avenues to let out our creative outlets. We don't have to move anywhere to do that.
Completely. And in the wintertime, we can take a break.
We can dip out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can go somewhere.
Yes.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for
You're
having
such
me.
a trooper. You've been up since 3 a.m. I don't even know what time it is, like 6 p.m. right now.
Oh my goodness.
Like
I'll talk to you all day
you're
and night.
a rock star. And
Oh,
honestly, your energy that you bring, Karen, you are like a ray of sunshine. I totally mean that. Like every interaction I've had with you, you totally inspire me.
oh,
And
I feel the same
you
about you.
are someone who I look up to, and like I see your career with the poise and elegance that you show up. And I think it's every interaction, right? Like, and that's how we move people. It's how you show up every time, whether it's through a social media post or seeing you on a red
Oh,
carpet or even through Instagram, the DMs that we've had. When you would message me, I can feel the warmth, and it just I'm so
oh,
grateful that we
thank
met
you.
and we
Oh, I feel the
connected.
same about
Yeah,
you. Oh
I
my
appreciate
goodness.
this a lot.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I'm so excited for your
Yay!
show
Thank you
and
so
all the
much.
people you're talking to because I get to learn about all my brothers and sisters in the industry that are doing great things. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Karen.